What's up, guys? I hope that all is well with you and you've had a fantastic week. It's been a pretty crazy week for me as I have started a new job and I now work over at Marshall as their PR. So it's really, really cool. Things have been kind of changing, but that's also one of the reasons that I've not uploaded this until now. One thing I did want to ask you guys is, would you prefer me to review stuff the week of release or the week before release? And also, would you like me to bring scores back? I'd love to hear what you guys think, because I had a chat with one of the subscribers from the channel, and I think it actually kind of, changed my mind about that sort of thing. Having begun their journey in the more death metal rooted focus in 1993, Cynic have always been an ever evolving band. Their next release wouldn't surface until 2008, which is the absolutely fantastic Traced in Air. And then following multiple EPs, we would move into the era of Kindly Bent to Free Us in 2014. Following that album's release, Sean Reinert decided to leave the band, and what would happen next literally would stun the entire rock and metal community. We sadly said goodbye to two absolutely fantastic players, which were Sean Malone and Sean Reinert. So this is an album that is very much born out of grief. It's not an easy listen, given, if you understand the circumstances under which it was written. And it really is absolutely incredible. So 7 years later, they are now back with what could well be their final album. First things first, the lineup on this record is very different, as you can imagine. We have the only remaining founding member of the band, which is Paul Masvidal on guitar and vocals. But then we've also got Matt Lynch on drums. And with the idea of no one necessarily being exactly like Sean Malone on bass, they basically just decided not to have a bass player, but instead had a bass synthesizer, which was played by Dave McKay. With that in mind, though, it has to be said that both Lynch and McKay deliver world-class performances. And what I really liked is the fact that Lynch, specifically, I think, has really mastered that sort of slight flourish that Reinert used to kind of put together in their songs. And there's even elements of breakbeats, which are on Aurora and In a Multiverse, where atoms sing. There are moments of this kind of meditative respite, which are, known as codes. And then we go into the more kind of progressive leaning classic sound of Cynic. These codes are multifunctional. They act as both a palette cleanser between the progressive nature of the album, but also, I think, create a really nice thread that kind of ties everything together throughout the listen. The band's sound might also be, incredibly delicate and beautiful, as we would have expected, but there's also a little bit more oomph on this album, which I was really, quite chuffed to hear. All tracks really blend into each other so well. So you've got Sixth Dimensional Archetype, which moves perfectly into DNA Activation Template. And then at the end of that track, we brought it back into that initial melody that we saw right at the beginning of the album on The Winged Ones, which also has a guest solo by Pliny on there, which is really, really interesting and very, very tasteful. Cynic are experimenting a little bit more with electronica and the ideas of what you can kind of put together with that. Mythical Serpents and Architects of Consciousness are a really good example of that, I find. Melody is also so key on this album, and you've got tracks like Diamond Light Body and also Aurora that have such strong melodies that are, especially when you think about the context of the album, the lyrics really does make it quite an emotional section, especially in Aurora for me. Though there might well be a different lineup on this record, there is definitely a sense of continuity, and in more ways than one. Warren Riker, for example, returns to produce the album alongside Masvidal, and Warren previously put together Traced in Air. But then you also have Martina Hoffman, who is the wife of Robert Venosa, who created all of Cynic's artwork up until now. Sadly, he's passed away, but this painting that she had created was from when she was in the grieving process over after his passing. So I think there's a real sense of, continuity, spirituality, even in the artwork of this album. Who knows if this will be the end of the Cynic chapter? And if this really is farewell, then honestly, I couldn't imagine a more beautiful and momentous curtain call than this. It's absolutely spectacular. So thank you ever so much for watching this album review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, it would be great if you could hit that like and subscribe button. Any shares are always appreciated as well. I won't be doing any reviews anymore for this year. It's going to be going straight into the album of the year. And I'll also probably have albums I've worked on and also non-metal albums that I've been really enjoying as well. And I'll see you next week as we round up the end of 2021. Take care, my friends.
Diamond